The principles of the Federalist Society are based upon are simple, that the states exist to preserve freedom, that the separation of powers is central to our Constitution, and that it's the duty of the judiciary to say what the law is, not what they would like it to be. In the last 25 years, we've seen these ideas, which in prior years had been largely rejected. We've seen them first start a slow and then really a very, very strong march back into the forefront of the way in which we look at our country and the way in which we look at the interpretation of our country's laws. And you should be very, very proud of the fact that the Federalist Society has played a very big role in accomplishing that. Because in accomplishing that, you are in fact preserving and expanding the very unique kind of freedom and liberty we have in this country. So I congratulate you for that. I was privileged to play a role, small role, but a role in the beginning of all that in the Reagan Justice Department with colleagues like Ted Olson and Ken Starr and Ed Meese and Ed Schmaltz and Jonathan Rose and lots of other people that you know really well. It was a very, very exciting time. The Reagan administration had a real sense of mission, a real sense of excitement, because it really was a sense of reform. And nothing really excites people more than being able to change things in the direction of thinking they're going to make things better. We were determined to restore sound constitutional principles to our judicial system. And we've made a lot of progress, and it's not complete. There are at least 200 reasons why the next election for President of the United States is going to be a critical one and the most important one that we have in our history. Now, I know we say that all the time, that every presidential election is the most important one that we have in our history. But actually, it's a truthful statement, isn't it? Because every presidential election, the next one, is the most important, because it determines the future course of this country. There are a lot of issues, there are a lot of differences, but I'm going to give you 200 reasons why the next election is really important. It's the 200 federal judges that the next president of the United States will likely appoint over 4 years in the White House. That's roughly the average that a president gets to appoint. This organization, probably more than most, understands how crucial that difference will be. If a president is elected who has the kind of thinking of a Hillary Clinton or a Barack Obama or a John Edwards, and I don't think there's much distinction there, I think you're going to see 200 decisions of judges who are like those judges who really began the reason for the Federalist Society in the first place. Judges who will be activists in the sense of trying to legislate their social policy through judicial interpretation. Let me assure you that if I am the President of the United States, every single one of those decisions will be made very carefully, very deliberately, with the advice of people like Ted and the people on my Judicial Advisory Committee, because we're seeking to find judges who understand the very, very important concept that judges exist to interpret the law, not to invent the law. Last week, I was watching the Chris Matthews show. Well, I have to watch these shows. And you know how he has that Matthews meter? He takes a question and he gives it to 12 reporters. I have lost 40 of these in a row. But last week, he asked him the following question. Do you believe that Rudy Giuliani will keep his word and appoint judges who interpret the Constitution, conservative judges? You know what the vote was among these reporters, some of the most cynical people in Washington? 12-0 yes. For the first time, I agree with a group of Washington reporters. They're right. Because we believe in the rule of law, not in the rule of judges. Our constitutional principles instruct us that we have to recognize the limitations on power as a way of protecting our liberties. That's really one of the guiding principles of our whole constitutional structure. And for many, many years, law schools, too many of them, had been confusing constitutional law with sociology. And there is a big difference between constitutional law and sociology. I stand with Ronald Reagan. He was once accused of having a 19th century attitude on law and order. He responded that it was a false charge. He had an 18th century attitude. Our framers had no doubt about the proper approach to interpretation of the Constitution. You could say they were the original originalists. Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton made current political argument and animosity seem trivial in comparison to the animosity that they had, right? But they didn't agree on many things, but they did agree on the following. And I quote Jefferson: "Our peculiar security is in the possession of a written constitution. Let us not make it a blank paper by construction." We need judges who embrace originalism, endeavor to determine what others meant when they wrote the words of our Constitution. Justices like Justice Scalia, Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, and Chief Justice Roberts. That would be my model. The theme of this conference is Shining City Upon a Hill, American Exceptionalism. Of course, the Shining City Upon a Hill was the great reference that Ronald Reagan used, bringing up the words of John Winthrop. But the American exceptionalism is also a very, very important part of that theme. There are some people, I think, nowadays that doubt that America has a special, even a divinely inspired role in the world. Now, I don't understand how you can look at history and not see the wisdom of that and the reality of it. Most countries on earth developed out of a single ethnicity, a single religion, some common characteristic that bound people together before they were even a nation. America is very, very different. We're not a single ethnicity. We're all ethnicities. We're not a single race. We're all races. We're not a single religion. We were established so that we wouldn't be a single religion. So we're very different in our origins than just about any other country on earth. We're united because of ideas and ideals. That's what holds us together. That's the thing that makes America, America, makes Americans, Americans. Shared ideas. The ideas first proposed in the Declaration of Independence and then debated in the Constitutional Convention and embodied in the Constitution became the American creed, the set of beliefs that bind us together as a nation. No one was more articulate and better able to explain this than Abraham Lincoln, who used to say, how do you determine who is the best American? He was once posed that question. Is the best American the one whose family has been here the longest and came over on the Mayflower, or the person who became a citizen yesterday? And Abraham Lincoln said, the best American is the American who understands our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, our values of political freedom, economic freedom, the rule of law, freedom of choice, freedom of decision-making, freedom for people. People who understand what our country is all about. That's the one that makes the best American. And what he said was, we're a people of belief. We're a people of ideas. So to the extent that we keep reminding ourselves of what these ideas are, to that extent, we're really enforcing what America is all about.